What happens when one of Hollywood's most private actors sits down for what seems like a simple morning show interview, only for the host to push every limit? The result is something no one expected, and it all happened live on Good Morning America. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment about how you feel this went down. You'll definitely have an opinion on this one. So, Daniel Craig appears on Good Morning America to promote his new project. Everything seems normal at first. Michael Strahan welcomes him, the usual small talk, smiles, polite greetings. But if you watch closely, there's a tension in Craig's body language. He's polite, yes, but there's a wall there. Anyone who knows Craig knows he's not one to play the Hollywood game. He does his job, promotes his work, and keeps his private life private. Strahan starts with the standard questions about the film, what drew him to it, the creative process. Craig responds professionally, thoughtful as always, but then Strahan changes direction. He says, "Daniel, you've played one of the most iconic characters in movie history. Now that you've moved on, do you ever feel like you're trying to escape that shadow? Or are you proving you're more than that one role?" It sounds like a normal question, but Craig's face says otherwise. He pauses, then answers calmly but firmly. "That question assumes I'm running from something. I'm not. I played that role for 15 years and gave it everything. When it was time to move on, I did. That's not escape. That's a career." Strahan smiles, but it's the kind of smile that says he knows he's hit a nerve. Instead of moving on, he digs deeper. He says, "But you've sounded relieved in some interviews, so people wonder if there's resentment. Maybe that role defined you in a way you didn't like?" Craig's jaw tightens. "I've never said I resented it," he replies. "I said it was exhausting, demanding, all-consuming. That's not bitterness, and that's honesty. Somehow, when an actor tells the truth about the job, it becomes a story about regret. I'm proud of those films. But after 15 years, I was ready for something new. That's normal." The studio audience is quiet now. This isn't the easy banter they expected. Strahan, either brave or stubborn, doesn't drop it. "But you understand the curiosity, right? You've become very private. It's like you put up walls." Craig leans forward. "I've always been private, Michael. What's changed is the expectation. Because I had a public role, people think my life is public property. It isn't. I talk about my work. That should be enough." Strahan nods, then says, "But doesn't that make people even more curious? Doesn't the mystery invite speculation?" Craig takes a breath. "So I should give up my privacy just to stop people from guessing?" "That's not how it works. Curiosity isn't a right." Strahan replies, "When you're in the public eye, there's a give and take. People support you, buy your tickets, and in return they want to feel they know you a little." Craig's tone hardens. "I give the audience entertainment. That's the deal. They pay, they watch, they enjoy. There's no fine print saying I owe them my private life. This idea that fame means giving up privacy needs to end." The tension is obvious. Strahan's co-hosts look uneasy. Strahan presses on. "Do you think being this private has cost you opportunities? Some actors play the game and get more work. Do you ever think about that?" Craig answers instantly. "Are you seriously asking if I regret having boundaries? If I wish I'd sold out for more jobs? No. I've built a career I'm proud of, worked with great people, and done it without turning my life into a circus. If that's cost me roles, those weren't roles I wanted." Strahan says, "I just mean being liked matters in this industry." Craig interrupts. "No, what you mean is being compliant matters. Smiling at things that aren't funny, answering invasive questions, pretending interviews are friendly. I'm not interested in that. I'm here to work, not perform off-screen." Strahan's smile fades. "You seem defensive," he says. Craig replies, "I'm not defensive. I'm clear. You've implied I'm difficult, closed off, or harming my career. I'm explaining where I stand. If that feels defensive, maybe it's because your questions sound like accusations." Strahan says, "I'm just asking what the audience wants to know." Craig's tone drops lower, sharper. "No, you're asking what'll make a headline. You're not curious about the craft. You're looking for a moment. I'm not giving you that." There's silence. One co-host looks down at her notes. Strahan glances at the camera, then back at Craig. "Well, I appreciate your honesty, even if it's intense for morning TV." Craig says, "If honesty's too intense, maybe morning TV should rethink itself." The air thickens. A co-host tries to lighten things up, but Craig's done playing nice. Strahan switches tactics. Let's talk about your process. You're known for being intense and method. Does that affect your relationships? Craig's face shifts instantly. My relationships aren't for discussion. Strahan says, I'm not asking for details, just if work affects life. Craig cuts him off. That's not a process question. That's a personal question in disguise. I see what you're doing, Strahan says. You're reading too much into this. Craig replies, Am I? You've gone from my past roles to my privacy to my career choices and now my relationships. That's not an interview. That's an interrogation. Strahan looks irritated. I'm doing my job. The audience wants to know. Craig says, Your job is to have conversations, not corner people. You've crossed that line more than once. A co-host tries to call for a break, but Strahan waves her off. You're being overly sensitive, he says. Craig goes quiet. Overly sensitive? He repeats. I came here to discuss my work. Instead, you've spent this time challenging my boundaries, and now you're calling me sensitive for standing up for myself. That's gaslighting. The word hits like a bomb. Producers start moving off camera. Strahan says, That's a serious accusation. Craig responds, So is your behavior. You've pushed and twisted everything I said, then made me out to be the problem. That's what gaslighting is. Strahan says, We need to calm down. I'm not attacking you. Craig says, You're not listening. You're trying to control the conversation. That's not respect. Strahan's jaw tightens. I've shown you respect. Craig laughs coldly. Respect? You've questioned my choices, my privacy, my personality, and called me sensitive. That's not respect. A co-host tries to bring the focus back to Craig's movie, but Strahan says, Maybe you came in here ready to be offended. Craig stands. I came here ready to work. You made that impossible. Strahan says, So you're walking out. Craig says, Yes. I don't need to sit here and be disrespected. Strahan says, Maybe that's why people say you're difficult. Craig's eyes narrow. People or you? There's a difference. Don't hide behind vague talk. Strahan says, This reaction is exactly what people mean. Craig fires back, Name them. Otherwise, you're just making excuses for your behavior. The co-hosts step in, trying to calm things, but Craig continues. You wanted a headline, Michael. You pushed buttons, hoping I'd slip. When I didn't, you pushed harder. Now you're blaming me. Strahan says, That's not true. Craig says, It's completely true. You've been invasive and unprofessional. That's not journalism. It's cruelty. Strahan stiffens. I wasn't being cruel. Craig says, Then what would you call it? You ignored every boundary I set. When I defended myself, you attacked my character. That's cruel. A producer rushes forward, signaling for commercial. Craig takes off his mic calmly. Think about what kind of interviewer you want to be, because this isn't it. Strahan snaps, and maybe you should think about how you come across. Craig turns back. I come across as honest and self-respecting. If that's a problem, that's on you. Strahan says, You don't get to lecture me on my own show. Craig says, It's not your show. You just host it. And I'm not lecturing, I'm responding. Strahan says, So you're running away. Craig says, No, I'm walking away. There's a difference between weakness and self-respect. The co-host pleads, Please, let's stop. Craig looks at her kindly. You've tried to keep this civil, and I appreciate that. But I'm done. Strahan says, You just can't take being challenged. Craig's laugh is bitter. Challenged? You call this challenging? I've faced harder challenges on set. This was pestering, not journalism. Strahan says, Maybe if you weren't so closed off. Craig interrupts. Or maybe if interviewers respected boundaries, we wouldn't be here. Strahan says, I don't accept that. Craig says, You don't have to. Everyone watching can see what happened. The co-host says, We really need to go to commercial. Craig says, Do it. I'll be gone when you're back. Strahan says, You know this will be everywhere. Craig replies, Let it. I'd rather be known for standing up for myself than for pretending. Strahan says, I wasn't trying to provoke. Craig says, Then you're lying to yourself. You wanted a viral moment. You just didn't expect me to speak up. Strahan says, You think you're smarter than everyone? Craig says, No, just smarter than you assumed. The tension is unbearable. The co-host asks, Daniel, is there any way to fix this? Craig shakes his head. No, sometimes things break and stay broken. Strahan says, so you're walking out on a live show? Craig says, I'm walking out of a hostile one. And with that, Craig sets down his mic and walks off calmly. The co-hosts stare, speechless. Strahan looks toward the camera and says, we invited Daniel Craig for a conversation. He chose to walk away. The camera cuts, but the damage is done. What was supposed to be a normal promo turned into one of the most intense TV moments in years. Watching it back, you can see both sides. Strahan doing his job, Craig protecting his boundaries. The real question isn't who was right. It's what we expect from celebrities and how much of their private lives we think we deserve. Craig clearly meant every word. He wasn't acting. He was defending himself. And Strahan seemed genuinely shocked by it. It's a clash of two views, fame versus privacy, curiosity versus respect. So, what do you think? Was Daniel Craig right to walk out? Or should he have stayed? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe, because this story is far from over.